Hello anyone, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney, where we are going into the first trial day for Sasaki's trial, which should be an entire experience, I'm sure. First of all, quick note, there are some people fixing my roof today, so if you hear weird background noises, that'll be what it is. I don't think it's loud enough to pick up on my mic, but it's certainly an experience. Now then, let's get into this. Hopefully they won't need me, because I have headphones on and probably wouldn't hear them. My bad. Gosh, it feels like a while since I've been in this courtroom. And it has been like a month, to be fair. Well, I never expected this. Who'd have thought we'd be back here again so soon? We are on a study tour of Great Britain, with the intention of learning the country's legal practices. In order to research the latest court procedures here, we need as much court experience as possible. Well, yes, I suppose that's true, but for the person in the dock, it may well be his or her one and only time in court, and it could be life-changing, or life-ending. In which case, treating it as research may seem a little crass. Oh, when you put it like that, you're quite right. Good morning. Oh, hello. Ah, Mr. Natsume. Good morning. Oh dear, are you alright? Your eyes are terribly bloodshot. The early bird catches the worm, as they say here in Britain. Yes, I've heard that expression. But I really don't want to catch a worm. So I tried desperately not to wake up early, but I was so worried I couldn't catch a wink. And now I'm absolutely exhausted as a result. Do all literary people take things so literally? Thank you for putting your faith in us today, Mr. Natsume. I wish I had 9 lives. My whole future hangs in the balance. I'm too terrified to tremble, he says, while trembling. Really? Because I can feel tremors in the floor. I can't do this. I can't take it. Although, locum student Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire. Yes? I caught a glimpse of the public gallery as I walked by the courtroom. It looked like the opening night of the opera, there were so many people. I had no idea my case was such a notorious affair here in London. Oh, neither did I. Do you know why that might be, Mrs. Zato? I'm sorry, Mr. Naruhodo, but I have no idea. Maybe because the last case that the Reaper took on turned out to get a man killed? So that all-knowing look on your face is just coincidence then, is it? Don't hide the truth from me. It's because of the Reaper, isn't it? I mean, yeah, that is my guess. Lord Van Zeeks. Is that right, Mrs. Zato? I purchased as many different newspapers as I could find this morning, and yes, Lord Van Zeeks is on the front page of every one. I knew it. Sometime after the prosecutor was dubbed the Reaper of the Bailey. He stopped appearing in court, it seems. It's been several years now, in fact, until the day before yesterday. Yes, Inspector Gregson told us something similar, didn't he? The trial 2 days ago marked Lord Van Zeek's return to the courtroom after a very long hiatus. The trial of Magnus McGilded. Ugh, what a harrowing experience that was. I believe that appearance made even greater waves here in the capital than today's. But we wouldn't have realised, of course, having only just arrived in the country. Why is the Reaper back in the Bailey so soon, for what appears to be a mundane murder? That's the question the papers are asking, and they are all speculating various answers. Also, this wasn't a murder, if I remember rightly. Isn't she alive, as of right now? Mundane? Mundane? Is the most significant saga of the century to some of us. Oh dear, I meant no offence, Mr. Natsume, but that is how the papers are describing it. Well, lest we also forget the fact that it could spark an international incident. Oh good, another one of these. Obviously, the reappearance of this infamous prosecutor has caught people's attention. But there's another blatant similarity with the trial of 2 days ago. Yes, I agree. locum student Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire. It's you. Me? Well, I suppose that's true. Both times it is you who stands against this legendary prosecutor. It can only mean that you're friends with the Reaper. Please, I don't rub shoulders with Deathbringers. I'm afraid that there's really only one other explanation. It can only be another example, Mr. Naruhodo, of your uncommon bad luck. Thanks for that. Oh, this is just my luck. Why must I be represented by a man with such frail fortune? By the least lucky lawyer alive! I mean, I don't know, you haven't met Phoenix Wright yet. I think he probably wins. Although I think Apollo might be the least lucky lawyer in this at this point. At least of the ones left alive. Well, let's not forget. Okay, I don't think the roofer's very loud gas flame torch is catching on my mic, that's good. That it was you, Mr. Natsume, who asked me to represent you. Yes, it's true that I'm just a student, new to London, with little in the ways of experience or skills, or luck. But I promise you this. I will fight your corner until the bitter end, and I will believe in you, Mr. Natsume. Oh, benevolent locum student, Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire. You're not alone here with us, Mr. Natsume. Whatever happens, we will always be on your side. Oh, benevolent locum assistant, Miss Makoto Aquarius. I can't read. That's not new information. I am in your debt, forever. I shall never... Oh, okay. Mr. Natsume, counsel for the defence. The court session is about to begin. Kindly make your way into the courtroom at once. Alright then, Mr. Natsume, it's time. Let's go. Yes! What evidence do I have, actually? Wow, absolutely nothing. Great. This is it. My second appearance in a British courtroom. And my second trial against the Reaper. I hope you're watching over me, Kazuma. Because this time I won't let my faith waver. I'll believe in my client to the last. Just like you believed in me. I believe I can do this now. I'm ready for this fight. Hang on a minute. Was that Mr. Hecking Fairplay, possibly a murderer from the last trial, on the jury? Who is choosing these juries? I hope I'm wrong about that. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. And I'll call upon the counsels for prosecution and defence to declare their willingness to proceed. Prosecution is fully prepared, my lord. The defence is ready, my lord. They are a truly fascinating breed. Sorry, what? Lord Strongheart has told me all about you. That you are a student who arrived in London but 2 days ago. A mere amateur. Do you have a point? Being a compatriot, you feel compelled to try to help the accused, I suppose. Typical arrogance. Forgive me, but I do not believe arrogance is an appropriate description. I wouldn't listen to anything he's saying at this point, Susato. After all, our previous encounter, the defendant was found to be innocent. Yeah, but was he? Oh, he's starting the drinking early this time. Very true. And a most fascinating, if dark, trial it was too. The tragic conclusion came later, of course. Here's to the acquitted and his unfortunate violent end. Thank you, counsels. I see both sides are in fine fettle. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are you ready to carry out your duties here in court as impartial members of the public? Okay, how the heck is he on the council and the foreman of the jury? Like, who let this happen? We literally just accused him of murder 2 days ago. There's no way he's impartial. You never know when you might be down on your luck, but I believe in fair play for everyone. Is no one going to comment on that at all? Well, I must warn you, I'm rather more ruthless than I appear. Oh well, not me. What you see is what you get. I'm a peace-loving fellow. Wait a minute. Why? Who is in charge of the jury here? Who? Who let this happen? I'm afraid to say, I think it's quite possible that moustached foreigner did the deed. How are you impartial? You're his landlady. What is happening? Come on, what are we waiting for? No doubt he did it anyway. Hey, sorry, didn't quite catch that. Also, I love how we're typecasting juror number 5, apparently. Very well, let us proceed. Are we not going to comment on the fact that a guy we accused of murder and a woman we just accused of spousal abuse are both in the jury? Because that seems like a problem. I guess we're just glossing over that. Your opening statement, if you please, Lord Van Zeeks. Very recently, Great Britain signed an alliance with a rising power in the Far East. The accused in the dock today is a student from that same land, a certain Mr. Saseki Natsume. And while our country has extended this foreign student the warmest of welcomes, regrettably the kindness has not been returned. In fact, this student is accused of a most sinister act. Of plunging a knife into the back of an innocent woman who was doing nothing but walking down the street. A knife crime? I tell you from bitter experience, those are the worst. Bloody oath they are. Seriously, no one's commenting on this? Just look at that sallow complexion and short stature. He's one of those dreadful Japanese. Come on, let's get this over with. With me now, everyone. 1, 2, 3. Hey, sorry, didn't quite catch that. Pray, forgive the discourtesy of smashing my hallowed chalice here in this great chamber. How many of those does he have? Allow me to call the first witness to the stand. Very well. Bailiff, lead the inspector in, please. Hey, Gregson. Your name and occupation, please. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard. Would you please summarise the events of the case for the court, Inspector? See, this is a weird one, because me and Cart were discussing this, and I always think of Lestrade when I think of the Scotland Yard people from Sherlock Holmes stories. And Cart looked it up, and Lestrade is in considerably more stories than Gregson. So it's kind of weird to me that they gave Gregson the role as the main police officer, and Lestrade is just a random girl now. I mean, not that I'm upset about them doing adaptations, because you can't really be upset in the realm of Herlock Sholmes, because clearly you should have had no expectations for the sanctity of the original stories with that nonsense. But it is still a choice. Anyway, the victim is thought to be a young woman in her 20s by the name of Olive Green. I beg your pardon, Inspector. Thought to be? Yes, having been stabbed in the back by her attacker's knife, the victim fell unconscious. And that was 3 days ago now, and she's been comatose ever since. What? So they don't even know who she is for sure? Comatose, I see. But her life is not in danger? Fortunately for the Euston student, the charge will not be murder. Pray elaborate on the details, Inspector. Sir, if I could ask everyone to look at this street map. As I mentioned, the incident took place 3 days ago, at around 5 in the afternoon. It happened on the pavement running alongside Briar Road, a wide thoroughfare for horse-drawn vehicles. It had not long since stopped snowing as the victim, Miss Green, was walking down the street. Out of the blue, she was approached from behind by the accused and stabbed in the back. Luckily, the young lady's life was spared, and she's currently being treated in one of the city's hospitals. But being unconscious as she is, we've been unable to take a statement from her, of course. This is the case file with everything we know about the victim so far. Thank you, Inspector. The court will accept the documents as evidence, if you please. Yes, I'd really like to have a look at that. What of the weapon that was used? I assume we're about to get some more evidence, so I'll check it later. Sir, I have that here. It was removed from the victim's back. Ouch. That big thing is starting to make me scared to walk down the street now. With a heavy blade like that, almost anybody would have been able to stab the poor woman. Even the scragged-looking Suzeki-san, I suppose. A common or garden jackknife, I would say, rather nondescript. Thank you, Inspector. The court accepts the blade as evidence. Now then, what do we know of the motive? Money or valuables, I presume? Let's have a look at this evidence quickly. Olive green, female, stout build, early 20s. Roly beat. Remains unconscious, her name was gleaned from her personal effects, other details are unknown. So is it going to turn out it's not her and she just had someone else's stuff? No other injuries apart from the stab wound, seen running away by the reporting officer and was arrested the next day. Okay, so not much to go on. The tip's broken off. Sudden flashbacks to, is it SL9? The Rise from the Ashes case? Oh, look here, Mr. Naruhodo, just at the tip. A small piece of the blade appears to be missing. You're right, well spotted, Mr. Sato. I wonder what could have happened to it. Yes. You don't think it could still be lodged in the victim, do you? Oh dear, I do hope not. That sounds terribly painful. Nothing else to see here, I guess? Doesn't seem like it. Okay. Well, now we know. From what we can tell by looking at the woman's possessions, it seems like she's a poor student herself. Hard to imagine she would have had anything much worth pinching, my lord. I see. Well, in that case, are we looking at some deep-seated resentment towards the victim? I'm afraid I couldn't say. Apart from visiting second-hand bookshops, the defendant, Mr. Natsume, doesn't appear to get out much. At this moment in time, we haven't been able to establish any sort of connection between him and the victim. Yes! Aww. I love that animation so much. If theft and grievance had been ruled out as the motive, what reason could Mr. Natsume possibly have had for stabbing the young woman? Yet you arrested this man in spite of that, in a totally unjustified and heavy-handed way.
Objection!
Rip the gallery member who just got attacked by that wine bottle. I love him. Like, I hate him, but he's so extra, I can't help but admire that. Pray forgive the discourtesy of flinging a freshly uncorked bottle into the public gallery. It just needs, like, the Wilhelm scream on top of that. But your words have soured its hallowed bouquet. For it is you, my learned friend, who is being heavy-handed here. What? Scotland Yard does not arrest people without good cause. That should be beyond question. Inspector Gregson, the prosecution calls for your formal testimony. Explain to the court precisely why the constabulary came to arrest the student. Yes, sir. As I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the incident occurred, and there was an unusually light fog. Visibility was reasonably good, and there was no one else about but the victim and the accused. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed on the pavement. The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor. Those being a number of old books he'd just bought. He was on his way home from a bookshop, it seems. was just a matter of working out who the books belonged to, and we found the bloke to arrest him. All the books, you say? Yes, my lord. I have a photograph here of the scene of the crime, taken immediately after the incident. Yeah, that's not great. Ah yes, I can clearly see the books to which you are referring. Again, surprising lack of blood for a stabbing. I'll take that photographic print as evidence, please, Inspector. Okay. You're a spineless breed, too cowardly to admit defeat. Denying everything despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Well, Forgive me, Lord Van Zeeks, but the defendant is not denying everything, as you put it. What are you doing, Miss Sasato? Do go on. Mr. Natsume has admitted to playing some part in the incident. Isn't that right, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, now you mention it. When we visited him in the prison yesterday, he did tell us what had happened. As I was walking along that accursed pavement, I could make out the sole silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman wearing a green overcoat she was, and just as I went to overtake her, she suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed onto the cold, hard slabs of stone at my feet. I was terrified. I had to get away from there. So I ran as fast as my legs would carry me back to my accursed lodgings. Huh, a green overcoat. Well, that's exactly what the woman in that print is wearing. Oh my, a photographic print in full colour. What will the world come up with next? The defendant has done nothing more than admit he fled the scene of a terrifying incident. That does not mean he's guilty of the heinous crime of stabbing the woman in the back. There was nobody else there at the time. Just two of them, the victim and the accused. In other words, there is nobody else who could possibly have stabbed the woman. Weren't there witnesses, though? A fact that the accused concedes. Ugh. It seems this cross-examination could prove to be pivotal, counsel. Proceed, please. Yes, my lord. Nothing for it. I have to use this cross-examination to turn the tables here. It's our only chance. Woohoo! A light fog, you say? Well, oh, capture card's died. Okay, capture card died. We're just talking about how the fog was suspiciously light. Well, light for London. You can see the opposite side of the street for once. Not much further, though. That's light, is it? Around these parts, yes. Not something I'd expect a Japanese fella like yourself to know, of course. I've read that London is famous for its fog. But in my country, people usually imagine that gives the city a rather beautiful appearance. How quaint. Yes, well, it's not something us Londoners tend to romanticise, as I expect you can appreciate. I see. Now, this time of year, the fog causes a large number of accidents, especially when it's heavy. Sometimes you can't even see your own hand at the end of your arm. Literally a nightmare. Indeed, the other day I was very nearly trampled by horses before I could see the carriage they were pulling. Ugh, Sasato-san and I should definitely remember to stop, look and listen. However, on the day that concerns us, the fog was somewhat lighter than usual. The fact no doubt lamented by the accused. Visibility was reasonably good.
Hold it!
How are you able to state that with any certainty? Quite simply, my learned friend. Because that is what the witnesses to this crime has told us. I mean, the witnesses are, by definition, other people who were there. Ah yes, Inspector Gregson mentioned the witnesses yesterday, didn't he? That's right. One of them is a policeman, I believe, from Scotland Yard. That is correct, ma'am. And we must hear their testimony. The prosecution will of course call them to the stand, should it be necessary. But wait a minute! At 5 o'clock in the afternoon in the middle of winter, it would have been dark already. No matter how light the fog might have been, no one could have seen. I'm unaware of the situation on your tiny island in the east. But here in the capital city of Great Britain, all main roads are illuminated in the night by gas streetlights. Ah. The prosecution believes there would have been ample light by which to witness the crime. Quite. Here in London, for the first time in history, mankind has completely conquered the darkness. Gosh, we're not pretentious about it at all, are we? Which means we really need to hear those witness statements. If I could just get through the fog of this cross-examination, maybe we'll be able to. It seems the counsel for the defence is taking stock. Continue with your testimony, Inspector.
Hold it!
From behind, you say? That's right, as you can see from this print. Yes, quite so, Inspector. The handle of the weapon is clearly protruding from the victim's back. Oh no. Once again, excuse the yawning. And you say this poor woman, Miss Green, remains in a critical condition, comatose no less. I'm afraid so, my lord, yes. She's been treated at Bart's. St. Bartholomew's Hospital is a thing in the home stories, isn't it? I know it is in adaptations, but I was hopeful that she'd come around before the trial started so I could take a statement, but it wasn't to be. Yes, that is indeed a pity. It would have been most illuminating to hear the victim's own account of events. Yeah, imagine if you held the trial, got someone guilty, had them executed, and then she woke up and was like, no, he didn't stab me. That would be a mess. Luck is on your client's side, it seems. On the contrary, my client has been exceedingly unlucky. Your force of tone is seriously undermined by those disturbingly wide eyes, I'm afraid. Ugh.
Hold it!
Mr. Natsume's belongings, I think you'll find it's all there in the photographic print of the crime scene. Yes, the 3 books on the floor. That's right, my lord. Second-hand books they were. Irreparably damaged after falling in the snow, of course. The accused could easily have carried all 3 books in one hand. Which means his other hand would have been free to wield a knife, for example. I mean, if the books were irreparably damaged by the snow, how do we know that they're his? He's very clever, isn't he? What do you mean? He's made it extremely hard for you to assert that Mr. Natsume had his hands full with his books. He's managed to close the one avenue of escape he might have had before we even knew it was there. You mean to say that the defendant was holding his belongings as he thrust the knife into the woman's back? That must be what happened, my lord, yes. Those being a number of old books he'd just bought. He was on his... yeah, I don't need to read that again. The defendant apparently visits a second-hand bookshop on a daily basis. Yes, I understand. A shop full of old English literature. I commend the accused on the lofty subject matter of his scholarly attention. The bloke's room was stacked floor to ceiling with those musty old books. Can you tell us more about the bookshop in question, please, Inspector? Well, if I must, I'll have to ask you to look at the street map again, I'm afraid. The closest second-hand bookshop to the accused lodgings is this place right here, Bourbon Books. A little place on the corner of Briar Road and Meerschaum Street. I wonder if these are real roads as well. As it happens, the accused is currently living in lodgings on the other side of Briar Road at the opposite end. I can read. Which means it doesn't take a genius to work out the route you would have taken home. Something like this. Okay. Yes, I concur with your conclusion, Inspector. The defendant would certainly have passed the scene of the crime on his way home from that particular shop. Mr. Naruhodo? I think that what the inspector just told us could turn out to be of vital importance. Yes, I agree. Do we? Most important point that the inspector just made being... Oh. Oh, it's a different name. Okay. Inspector Gregson, may I ask you a favour? What? Would you kindly add the name of the bookshop to your formal testimony, please? I believe it may be of vital importance. Maybe? Oh, well, you know, yes. It could be a very important clue. Very well, not that I can see it being of any great significance. But please revise your testimony accordingly, Inspector. Yes, my lord, whatever you say. Could the man be any more sardonic? He was on his way home from Bourbon Books, a second-hand bookshop he apparently patronises. I guess we'll give this a try.
Objection!
Well, the music stopped, so that's a good sign. If I could just stop you there, Inspector Gregson. What is it, sunshine? I'm a busy man, you know. This is a receipt that we found in Mr. Natsume's room. It was issued on the day of the incident and details the purchase of 3 second-hand books. And you found that in the accused room, did you? Yes, but the point is not where the receipt was found, but the name of the shop printed on it. Go on. This receipt was issued from a bookshop called Your Books. Your Books? Y-O-R-E, I presume. Yes, my lord. So Mr. Natsume did indeed purchase a number of books at a second-hand bookshop that day. However, the bookshop in question was not Bourbon Books. Eh? What? Inspector, do you know of this other bookshop? Yes, sir. Your Books is another second-hand bookshop not far from Bourbon Books. It's just that... well, it's such a small place. I didn't think the accused would have known about it.
Objection!
But in fact, that is the bookshop which the defendant visited on the day in question. And this receipt proves it.
Objection!
Yes, for what difference it makes. Wherever the man purchased his musty tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis. Well, it does, because, again, I saw a Twitter spoiler. I need to start looking away more quickly when people mention DGS on Twitter. There's something about a different road, so my guess is he would have taken a different route home.
Objection!
I don't think that really counts as a spoiler, because even I don't know what it means, but I disagree. I mean, after all, I have the street map here, if that might be of help. Oh, yes, thank you. Have a look at this, please. If the defendant had been returning from Bourbon Books, then yes, he would almost certainly have passed the place where Miss Green was attacked. Lonku, do not step on it. Lonku. Nope, no, Chonk, move. Baby boy, oh for goodness sake. What have you done? Are you going to jump, or are you going to sit there and look smug? You're going to jump, I think. If you could hurry up and do it, that would be appreciated. There he goes. Thank you, Lonku. Okay, hopefully Lonku Fire Emblems did not mess things up too much. If we take into account the fact he was actually at another bookshop, Your Books, it may very well turn out that he wouldn't have passed that location at all. Could that be true? My, it rather depends on where this other bookshop is, but I do declare it may be a possibility. Is that right, Mr. Lawyer, sir, what you just said? Absolutely, it absolutely could be right. Inspector Gregson, where is this Your Books establishment? Well, obviously we looked into that. It turns out that Your Books is just here on the next corner of Meerschaum Street going east. So yeah, he could have gone either via Meerschaum and Briar, or Calabash and whatever the other road is. Local maps information has been updated. And there you have it, as you can clearly see now. Oh. My learned friend is obviously in training to be a clown, the way he regales us with such witticisms. To your future career in the circus. Oh, I definitely need a screenshot of that. Ugh. You put that glass down now, or I'll put it down for you. I, didn't think I needed to spell it out, but here we go. If the accused was coming home from your books instead of Bourbon books, there's no doubt he still would have passed the place where the victim was stabbed. I mean, can no one else see? I feel like I need that Lawrence clip from Three Houses of I, of course, am the only one with eyes. Yes, thank you, Inspector. Ugh. Allow me to reiterate for my learned, if somewhat slow, friend. Wherever the man purchased his musty tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis. I mean, again, can no one else see the other road? As I suspected, you can't fool me, and I don't suggest you try. Seriously, is no one commenting on the fact that she's here? What did I say, eh? I've had enough of this now. Beg your pardon? Terribly sorry, but would you mind repeating that? Mr. Naruhodo, we mustn't give up. What do you mean? If the prosecution's assertion is correct, the members of the jury may very well decide that Mr. Natsume is guilty. Ah, she's absolutely right. We must think. We must consider the assertion just put forward by the prosecution very, very carefully. He claims Suzaki-san must have passed the location of the incident on his way home from your books, but there's another road. The assertion just made by the prosecution is fundamentally flawed. Explain yourself, counsel. Yes, my lord. You can see what I mean on this map. On returning from your books to his lodgings, Mr. Natsume could have followed the route suggested by the prosecution. However, that isn't the only conceivable route to take between the two places. If the defendant used the streets, look what happens. He arrives back at his lodgings without passing the location where the victim was attacked.
Objection!
Are the damaged books going to turn out to be ones that came out of the window when Mr. Garadab's wife was throwing them at him? And that's the reason we think that this is the case. And maybe the reason they're identified as Suzaki's is because they were stolen from his lodgings. This is my guess on how that went down. Talking back to a clown is a fool's errand, of course. However, I feel compelled to point out that that route is what is commonly referred to as the long way round. Ah. On a cold winter's night, why would any man choose to take a longer route home? To get fresh air because his window's bricked up? The answer is extremely simple. He wouldn't. In other words, the accused took the obvious route back to his lodgings and is the obvious perpetrator of this crime.
Objection!
But... Aha, yes, I've got it. Obviously, we must ask the man himself. Ask Mr. Natsume which route he took home. I have already informed the court of the accused's response to such questioning. He claims he has no recollection. Ah. That's right. As I said, the bloke seems to spend his time outside wandering aimlessly from A to B. That day was no exception. He says he doesn't remember where he was or which route he took home. Great. I don't believe this. It's not great, that's for sure. I thank you, my learned friend, and suggest that we do not waste any more of the court's time by wandering aimlessly around this subject. Pray, what say you, insightful jurors? But even if that is the case, the defense still... And this remains the most useless jury of all time, but sure. I agree with Lord Van Zeeks. Wholeheartedly and in every way. Well, you would. We accused you of murder. What? I don't believe it. Does this mean... You members of the jury are completely convinced now. So we're doing it this early again. Great. Very well, in that case I hereby call upon all members of the jury to present your findings to the court.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty!
Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty!
Woohoo! It would appear that the jury's leaning is unanimous. To the insightful members of the jury, I applaud your brave resolve. You serve Queen and country admirably. Mr. Naruhodo. Summation examination time. No, not yet. This isn't over yet. I still have one last chance to sway the opinion of the jury. I have to tip the balance of those scales the other way. I have to turn this around. Somehow. Those are the eyes of a quarry not yet willing to give up and die. So I presume you intend to wield your rights again in this trial. Rights of the defence written into antiquated British law that should have been buried long ago. Call it antiquated if you will, but it's the defence's prerogative to carry out a summation examination if it so chooses. I like that it said it instead of he. Gender-neutral defence for all. Very well, counsel. In accordance with the letter of the law, we shall proceed with the summation examination. Are the members of the jury ready, Mr. Foreman? Of course we're ready. I'm all too familiar with that whippersnapper in... Exactly! Which is why you shouldn't be on the hecking jury! Very well then. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we'll each explain on what grounds you've determined the defendant to be guilty. For pity's sake, that oddity already admitted it himself, didn't he? If he said that a woman in green collapsed before his eyes, why, it can only have been the victim. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop, not in winter. So the poor woman was attacked from behind, was she? How dreadful! I really don't care. Can't we just wrap this up now? I've got work to be doing. Your books, yes. Nice shop, that. Bourbon books. No, not worth a visit. How does any of that relate? And I also didn't see any contradictions, so that's concerning. With only minor exceptions, the reasons for finding the defence guilty are all too clear. When the stabbing occurred, the only two people at the scene were the victim and the accused. And the witnesses! And the accused himself has admitted to seeing the victim in her green overcoat sink to the ground before his eyes. Furthermore, we have heard from the inspector that the defendant then fled the scene. I must say, I would have ample grounds to convict this man already. Oh dear, even the judge appears convinced of Mr. Natsume's guilt now. Ugh, why did he have to run away like that? And how are we supposed to believe in some phantom attacker that nobody could see? This is impossible. How could I possibly make a case for the defence? Mr. Naruhodo, this is no time for grumbling. If we want to force the trial to continue... Yes, I know. I have to turn the tide. I must make the jurors change their minds. Or forward them, at least. Exactly. We have no choice but to forge forward. You have the floor, counsel. Begin your summation examination. I wonder if I can press them. I don't remember. Yes, my lord. I just need to keep this trial going somehow, whatever it takes. Come on, Rinosuke, you can do it. Okay, I can press them. Good.
Hold it!
Excuse me, but aren't you Yes, that's right. I was in the witness stand myself just 2 days ago. Yes, I had a feeling I knew your face. Or the side of it, anyway. If I remember correctly, you're a banker, aren't you? That's right. After the gold rush down under, I came back to London to work. Oh, so he is Australian. I'm pretty sure this was a conversation I had with Cart. Give me a second. Anyway, message to my sister Rover. It was all going swimmingly until you started fossicking around. Bruce Fairplay was a man of repute. Sorry. Don't think I've forgotten how you treated me the other day. You had me and that young hatter pegged as criminals. Oh, well, you know, water under the bridge. Now there's all sorts of rumours buzzing around, and the police have been badgering me non-stop. If I could turn back the clock... Well, anyway, I don't know about the hatter, but at least I'm in the clear now. I'm free to make up my own mind about who's guilty and who isn't. Yeah, but you're clearly biased. Why? I'm just gonna stop questioning it. Ah, thank goodness. Alright, maybe I might struggle to change this man's mind, given our awkward history. Oh dear, I wonder what's become of Mr. First now. If he said that a woman in green collapsed before his eyes, why, it can only have been the victim.
Hold it!
You're right that at the time of the incident, the defendant admits to having seen someone wearing a green overcoat walking ahead of him. Well, quite. That's precisely my point. Clearly that someone wearing green was the victim. And clearly that funny little man with the disturbing moustache is the culprit. But let us not forget, madam, the defendant vehemently denies attacking the woman. Why, of course he does. If he admits to stabbing her, his life is over. The man is obviously a liver-faced coward, honestly, claiming the woman simply collapsed before his eyes. But if that's a lie as you're suggesting, do you not think he would have concocted something more credible? Oh, I really couldn't say. After all, you are foreign. Who's to say what goes through your funny little minds? I did not miss this. I could tell you what's going through my funny little mind right now, but you wouldn't like it. Yeah. I do declare the man has already made the admission. He himself has stated that there was nobody else around. Surely the conclusion is obvious. No one else could possibly have committed this awful crime. Ugh. If no one else could have done it, the accused must be the man. Really, it couldn't be more simple. Your argument is compelling in its simplicity, I must admit. Oh my, you were too kind, my lord. That went well, for her. The man wouldn't have gone around the house on his way back from the bookshop, not in winter.
Hold it!
But you can't deny that there are other routes Mr. Natsume could have taken back from your books. Oh yes, like you drew on the map, you mean? What was it? Calabash Road or something? Precisely. But it seems to me that what counts is whether the little Japanese fellow actually went that way or not. Well, yes, that's true. And at the moment, there's no proof that shows he did, is there? Well, yes, that's true as well. And as I understand it, the accused himself doesn't remember which way he went, does he? Well, yes, that's annoyingly true. Winter nights are dark and cold, so the way I see it, you'd want to get home as quickly as possible. Well, yes. Huh. Why is all this true? So really, the only thing that makes sense is that he went home along Briar Road. Ugh, I'm supposed to be convincing you here. I've given it a lot of thought, you know. I didn't just make up my mind on a whim that he did it. I mean, if there was some logical reason why he might have gone the Calabash Road way, it'd be different. I'd be happy to reconsider my position in that case. Honest, I would. A reason why Suzuki-san might have taken the longer way home. Yes, a good reason. I don't imagine you'll be able to sway this young man's opinion without one. Maybe that's why the last juror was talking about how the other bookshop wasn't a good place to be. Anyway, other juror I can't believe is here. But I find this one less weird because at least there's no public record of them having met.
Hold it!
Whatever is the matter, young man? You're the wife of Mr. Garadeb, aren't you? The landlord who rents Mr. Natsume his room. Oh yeah, that was why I hated it, because he's literally the accused's landlady. The master's wife? Where do you get your ideas, sir? I'm the maid. The maid, you understand. She's keeping up that charade. Ugh, this is going to be awkward. Why didn't you mention this yesterday? That you've been selected for the jury in this trial, I mean. Well, I was told not to mention it to anyone until the day of the trial, you see. It was in the letter I received. The instructions were very clear, so I'm afraid I had no choice. I see. Anyway, Mr. Natsume, the defendant, takes lodging in your master's house, doesn't he? Yes, that's right, although he's only been in a little over a week now. And in that time, surely he must have taken stock of his character. I don't think this is going to help us, Rinosuke. Does Mr. Natsume look like the kind of man who would commit a crime such as this? Oh my goodness me, yes! He's just the sort. What? Spending all his time in that dark and dingy room, sporting that unscrupulous moustache. The man never speaks. And don't get me started on those shifty eyes. All the neighbours are talking about him. I've heard them, you know. People think he must be building a bomb in there or something. Oh dear, poor Mr. Natsume. How could people say such things about him? He's just a harmless bookworm, nothing more. Well, you just called him a worm, so... Anyway, I'd better be careful about inviting this maid to speak. She's said enough damning things already. Yeah, this is not a reason to declare a man guilty.
Hold it!
A man's life is on the line here, sir. This will take as long as it takes. Don't get clever with me now, son. My life's on the line too, and so is my family's. Ah. The likes of you wouldn't understand, but a labourer like me can't afford to take time off. If I don't work, I don't eat, and neither do the wife and kids. Oh, I see. That must be very hard. You go to the union every morning to find out what needs doing. If you're late and the work's taken, it's tough. This time of year, there's water and gas supply pipes bursting left, right and centre. They're after cheap labour to get the roads dug up to fix it. It's a hard slog from dawn till dusk, it is. So, you were out digging up the roads on the day of the incident as well, were you? That's right. In fact, if I remember rightly, was he digging up a road? It was just round the corner from where it all happened. By that old bookshop it was. So you mean the road was being dug up outside the bookshop? What? Another coincidence? That's right, Meersham Street it was. Meersham Street? On the map, Mr. Naruhodo, there are only 3 named streets. Juror number 5, I need you to add that information to your formal statement, please. What's the point in that? Can't we just get this business over with now? Please, sir, it's important. Fine, I'll do it then. On the day it happened, I was digging up Meersham Street from dusk till dawn. I'm going to save here, just in case. But do I then... Oh, I can't present. Okay. I guess I'll get the last piece of information. Not what I meant to do.
Hold it!
There we go. Sorry, fold it, you say? Fold what? No. What I said was hold it. What I wanted to ask was, do you visit your books often? I like the old books they have in there, yes. I enjoy reading them over a nice cup of tea. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're all talking about. So he's not only... How did they pick these people? And at what time did you visit your books on the day in question? Well, I was picking out books in there all afternoon, and it would have been just before 5 that I left. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're all talking about. Just before 5, you say? Exactly when the victim was attacked. Are you sure about the time? Oh, he's wearing a green overcoat. He must have fallen over. Oh yes, no mistake there, I remember it well. I'm not about to forget that day in a hurry. Not after the dreadful time I had. What do you mean? Well, I was walking down Calabash Road when I slipped on ice and donked my head. It's always worse after the snow stopped falling. That's when it's most slippery. Knocked myself clean out, I did. I really thought my number was up. Wait a minute, let me get this straight. This happened on Calabash Road. That's right. I live in Cornpipe, you see. Heading down Calabash Road is the quickest way for me to get back from your works. Juror number 6, I must insist that you add that information to your formal statement. It may very well be extremely significant. Okay, so it's this guy with the woman saying he saw someone in a green overcoat fall, and then road digging guy with the person saying I don't know why he'd have gone the other way. Sorry, extremely sick. No, I'm quite alright now. It sends a shiver down my spine to hear the members of the jury so convinced of Mr. Natsume's guilt. But I can't help feeling that some of their opinions are rather subjective. I agree, it's the irrelevance of what some of them are saying that sends a shiver down my spine. Still, at least some of their assertions don't actually incriminate Mr. Natsume of anything. That's something. We must use that to our advantage, Mr. Naruhodo. Cunningly. Yes, you're right. Let's listen to the jurors again, carefully. And if any of their assertions are at odds, I'll pit them mercilessly against each other.
Objection!
Those two statements clearly show a flaw in the juror's reasoning. A flaw? What are you talking about, counsel? Well, juror number 2. Juror number 6? My, whatever do you mean, sir? I think perhaps the old man didn't hear you. Unbelievable. It's not like I was loud or anything. There's at least one fact of which we can be sure here. The bookshop receipt found in the defendant's room clearly indicates that on the day of the attack, he had been to your books and purchased a number of second-hand titles. He then returned home on foot. But the man says he has no recollection of his return journey. That's correct. But what he does remember is seeing someone appear in front of him on the way. Someone in a green overcoat who suddenly collapsed on the pavement before his eyes. Yes, we are well aware of all this. The poor young woman who was stabbed, obviously.
Objection!
Can we really be sure of that, madam? My, whatever do you mean? I'm sure you heard juror number 6's account of what happened to him that day. That same afternoon, there was somebody else apart from the victim, who was wearing a green overcoat and who fell over on the icy streets in the neighbourhood. Oh my! My goodness, you mean... That's right, I'm referring, of course, to the hard of hearing juror number 6. Are you really suggesting that the person in the green overcoat whom the defendant saw collapse in front of his eyes was the jolly old gentleman on the end of the bench with me here today? That is entirely possible, yes. After all, the old man has a somewhat similar build to the victim. Oh, look at that! My goodness me! Sorry, you need a pee? And crucially, we know precisely where the old man in the green overcoat fell. On Calabash Road. Therefore, if the person who Mr. Natsume saw collapsing in front of him was in fact juror number 6, it means the defendant must have taken the long route back to his lodgings. And if that's true, then clearly the crime scene on Broyer Road where the woman was stabbed was not on his way home. Oh my! You idiot, old man. If you hadn't been so daft as to be roaming about there, we'd have boxed this off hours ago. And really, what were you thinking wearing such a befuddling coat? What did you say to me? Is it a crime for the elderly to walk the streets these days, Is it a crime to slip over on the ice? Is it a crime to keep up with the latest styles and wear a beautiful green overcoat, is it? My lord, I do hope it won't cause any inconvenience, but... You'd like to change your leaning, I presume? I do declare that I would. I should like to call for a verdict of not guilty. Thank you. And I would too. What? Is it a crime to change your mind, is it? Well... We're getting there. Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo. That was wonderful. Well, we've managed to change a couple of minds at least. It's strengthened our position somewhat. Yes, and it will prompt the other members of the jury to reconsider their stance as well. They'll be asking themselves if their current leanings are really right or not. Now, if only. If we could just identify one more clue or discrepancy that would make them stop doubting Mr. Natsume. Way ahead of you, Susato. You might be able to tip the balance completely. Yes, that's exactly what we've got to do. Van Zieks is looking to bring this trial to an early conclusion. That's what we have to prevent, by whatever means we have at our disposal. Thank you, Counsel. On with the summation examination, please. Yes, my lord. Yeah, well, it could have been that old man in the green that defendant saw. I have to call not guilty, it's only right. I'm sorry about my overcoat setting a cat among the pigeons. I'm leaning to not guilty to make up for it. Right.
Objection!
Those two statements are clearly at odds with one another. At odds, Counsel? Explain yourself. Please don't point. It wasn't me, I swear. Eh? What? I just want to get this done and dusted. Well, juror number 3? Oh, me, sir? What do you mean? Juror number 5's words just now are extremely significant. Let's take a moment to consider the implications of what's been said on our map of the local area. On the day in question, Mr. Natsume visited this bookshop to purchase a number of second-hand books. And on the same day, we now know that there were works being carried out on Meersham Street, making it impossible. Which means that the defendant's route home could not have taken him along Meersham Street and down Borough Road. Oh yes, of course. What do you think, sir? Well, yes, you can't argue with that really, can you? You must have had a good 2 yards or more of the pavement up. Every gentleman and gentlewoman that came along had to turn back and go the other way. So the only conclusion is this. The defendant must have taken the longer route back to his lodgings. Yes, I suppose he must have. I suppose that must be right, eh? Juror number 3, you said the following. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop. But we see now that he had no choice. Yes. My Lord Mr. Judge, sir, if I may? Yes? I don't think in all good conscience that I can say the man's guilty now. Yes, I'd like to see this trial continue so we can get to the bottom of what really happened. What about you, sir? Eh? Who, me? Well, alright then. If there's a hole in the prosecution's argument, it should be filled in, that's what I say. Hilariously, it's the 2 jurors who literally hate us who haven't changed their verdicts. Who could have seen that coming? Well, that summation examination is concluded with a rather large shift in opinion. The ayes 2, the noes 4, so the noes have it. Not guilty, they say. Which means we no longer have a consensus among the members of the jury. The trial will continue.
Objection!
Could it seem churlish of me to drink from my hallowed chalice moments after raising an objection? Only to crush it in disgust. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zieks. It seems I must retract my earlier remark. What do you mean? I mistakenly credited these jurors with intelligence by describing them as insightful. Yet we have just witnessed them falling for a cheap trick performed by an entertainer. Eh? Whatever do you mean?
Objection!
I haven't tricked anyone. Everything I've said is the truth. Indeed, stalwart juror number 5 was undoubtedly repairing the road, as he claims. I believe you said it was a good 2 yards of the pavement which you had excavated, sir. That's right, took me the whole day and they paid me a measly 2p for it. Now, my learned friend, tell me. Do you have any notion of the distance the 2 yards represents? Well, if I'm honest, I don't have a clue, no. Neither do I, to be fair. 2 yards is a little less than 2 meters. Less than 2 meters? That's not much at all. In other words, a distance readily vaulted by anyone of moderate vigour. Is this Van Zieks' theme? Because I remember Cart saying it was good, and she's right, I like this track. Would you not agree, my stalwart friend? Eh? Me? Well, I can't say you're wrong, no. What? And did you perchance erect a sign to prevent pedestrians from passing the site of your works? Eh? I wouldn't dream of it. What a waste of time. No coaches would have had overpassing anyway, and we could just turn any gentlefolk back when they came. Kids just jump right over us all the time. The accused is no gentleman as far as I can see. I have little doubt, however, that he could spring over a 2-yard trench in his meanderings around town. Ah. Is that true? Is it? The incontrovertible truth is that the books just purchased by the accused were found at the scene. There can be no doubt that on his way back to his lodgings, Mr. Natsume walked down Briar Road. Ugh, crushed in a single sentence. And old man. Cold man? You can talk. You say that around 5 o'clock on the day in question you slipped and fell on Calabash Road. Pray, was there a suspicious-looking man behind you at the time? Oh, I can't say as I remember. You don't remember? How about a wager, my learned friend? You say it was this old man that the accused saw. But I would lay 1,000 to 1 against you being able to prove it. Ugh. Well, this got messy quickly. Order. Lord Van Zieks, explain yourself. My lord? If you had such a trenchant argument up your sleeve, why in the world did you not proffer it during the Summation Examination? 'Cause game's got a game. I wanted to give this young foreign student the sightseeing experience he no doubt came for. I wanted him to see for himself how the opinion of the jury is so readily swayed. Ugh. But my hospitality has its limits, and they have been reached, I feel. So, my learned friend, today's sightseeing tour of London is now over. What are you talking about? My lord. The prosecution requests permission to call its next witnesses to the stand. Granted. Bailiff, bring forth the witnesses. Its next witnesses? Mr. Naruhodo, do you not remember? We've been told on several occasions that there are eyewitnesses to the incident. Yes, I remember, one of them being a Scotland Yard policeman, no less. I'm afraid that's likely to be the prosecution's next witness. Alright, no matter who Van Zieks brings to the stand as his witness, and no matter what they say, I believe in Saseki-san. I know he's innocent. And I'll keep believing to the very end, until this battle is over. To be continued? No. Although I am going to make this a to be continued because I need a break and also some food. So I will see you next time. And until then, thank you for watching, and goodbye.